Welcome back finally to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. It's been a long Christmas break, but I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, and joined by the dynamic duo of Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. And Mark, it's been almost a month nearly since our last podcast with the Christmas break, the way the weekends fell. How was your Christmas, bud? Did you get to watch a lot of football? Did you get to switch off at all? What was, give the listeners a bit of an insight there.
Little chance to switch off, Dan. It's a hectic period for people in the industry, playing and sort of following. So little chance. Obviously, I had Christmas Day with the family, which was really good fun. Lots of good food, lots of laughs, etc. Had to kind of keep it a little bit restrained on the alcohol front, but yeah, up early on Boxing Day morning and just enjoyed all the football and got stuck in. It's only really the last week or so which I've had an opportunity to have a bit of a breather, really, as the sort of main schedule was kind of eased off with cup football and a lot of Europe kind of on a bit of a rest. But it's all back, hands to the pump this weekend. The Bundesliga's back, Ligue 1's back. La Liga is playing despite the Super Cup taking place as well. Serie A has been back in force as well. So, and of course, the Premier League and EFL is back in business too. So, yeah, busy times again. And I think it's going to be like this way pretty much through to March or the end of March and the international break. So, yeah, looking forward to it, but refreshed.
Yeah, Adrian, you left us the podcast before Christmas saying how hectic your schedule was at Christmas. Over the last week or two, have you had the chance to switch off with the cup football? But it's been all go, I presume, for you.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, yeah, it's the busiest time of the year, isn't it? And yeah, I'm more than happy about it. You know, love going to watch football. Love sort of love to keep across it all. So yeah, when I get itchy feet when there's no football on to talk about, to sort of watch and cover, don't really know what to do with myself. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But it was good. It was good for us three to meet in person the other day in London after the Arsenal game, which was good fun at the pub. So yeah, it was yeah. I did that shamefully though. I didn't recognise Mark O'Haire without his glasses when he first came up to me. I was like, I was unsure.
Was it disguise?
Yeah.
Cap and no glasses.
Yeah. I was at that Arsenal Liverpool game, which is why I got the chance to meet the guys after. But I've gone to my last 5 Arsenal games, Adrian. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, you're not going again. Yeah.
No, Arsenal have lost 4 of their last 5 I've watched, which is a 20% win rate, but 80% loss rate, which is just way beyond what we've been the last couple of years. It's absolutely disgraceful. 2 cup exits in there in EFL Cup and FA Cup and a few hammerings too. So I'm very considering the next game I go to very, very carefully, but we will see. Hopefully that bad luck charm gets lifted eventually. I'll try and get over to the Emirates before the end of the season. But yeah, great as always from Mark and Adrian. Big shout out. I know it's almost a month ago as we touched on, but Wolves and both teams to score versus Chelsea, Mark 7.2, and Adrian Clarke landing his best long shot as well. Luton and under 4.5 goals against Newcastle 6.4. A couple of people had the double, I think, on social. So well done to you guys. That double paid over 40 on the Matchbook betting exchange. Other than that, it's the usual format despite the split Premier League weekend. If you're not aware, 5 games this week, 5 games next week gives every club a winter break. Carabao Cup and FA Cup replays aside. Burnley, Luton, Newcastle City, Everton, Villa, and Manchester United versus Tottenham. The games we'll be covering today. And if you are watching on the YouTube stream, do hit that like button. Subscribe completely for free for the Matchbook YouTube channel. Best way, not just getting the football content, but horse racing and NFL as well as we enter the playoffs there too. And if you're listening on the podcast, welcome along. And if you wherever you're listening, hit that 5-star review. That'd be much appreciated from all the guys here. Helps our content get out to a wider audience. And last thing, do check out the Matchbook betting exchange. Invariably, we are best price on the Odds Checker UK grid. So do check out all our markets across a range of options there. But yeah, we'll start Friday Night Football. A good way to get back into the Premier League with Burnley versus Luton. A massive 6-pointer at the bottom here. But we'll take a look at the betting currently available on the Matchbook betting exchange. Burnley favourites here 2.02. Luton 4.1 underdogs. The draw is 3.75. Both teams to score, yes, favoured in that market at 179. The Asian handicap line sees Luton get a half-goal head start at 1.96, and the total for this is 2.5. 50-50 here, basically a coin flip between the over and the under. So look, Adrian Clarke, kick us off here. These are 2 teams promoted from the Championship last year. You would have watched closely. Maybe just a little bit of how both teams are getting on so far, and look, a win here for either, and they're right back into perhaps.
Yeah, it's a huge game. Absolutely massive, isn't it? Yeah, Burnley have disappointed me this season. I thought they were great in the Championship, but Vincent Kompany pretty much ripped up that promotion side and started again. And I'm not convinced really any better. In fact, I think they might be a little bit worse. But Luton have done well. They've kind of done what I thought they would, and that's be really awkward. And they've produced some really spirited performances and some good wins. So they're both in it. You know, they can both survive, but it's going to be tough. And I think that the result of this match, you know, could have a huge impact on who survives, who goes down. You know, draw's not really any good to either side. So I'm looking at this and thinking it might be a better game than you'd anticipate. I think that there could be goals. If you look at the games between the newly promoted sides, I think there've been 3 this season. 13 goals across 3 games. Obviously, Burnley hammered Sheffield United 5-0, but these haven't been 0-0, 1-0 type matches this season. I think because the value of the win is so high here, you know, 3 points is massive. I think they're both going to be attacking when the moments arrive where they can be. So, yeah, they're not going to be gung-ho, but I think that they might go for it. Luton, obviously, both teams to score, has landed in 7 of 8 matches against bottom half teams this season. 6 of their 9 away games has seen both teams to score land as well. They can kind of go anywhere and score, Luton, and I kind of expect them to at Turf Moor. The only team that haven't scored there is Sheffield United. And Luton have scored in 7 straight games. So they've got their eye in. And I think they can go to Turf Moor and get 1 or 2 goals. And Burnley, obviously, they've lost every game apart from that Sheffield United one. It's been awful on their own patch. But, you know, they have been putting some decent performances lately. They weren't bad, were they? In losing 3-2 against Villa, quite competitive against Liverpool, played really well when winning at Fulham. So there are signs of life there with Burnley. So I think that they can get on the score sheet too. So obviously brings both teams to score into play. And it's been trimmed in from 1.83 when I looked earlier to 1.79. So there's a lot of money for it. But also, if you want a bit more value, look at the over 2.5 goals market, because it correlates. You know, there have been a lot of games in the Premier League this season that are over 2.5 goals. So to back it at 1.98, I think actually provides great value. There is not a single team in the Premier League that hasn't seen at least half of their matches go over 2.5. Palace are the only team on that 50-50 borderline. Every other team is above 50% when it comes to their matches going over 2.5 goals this season. So to get it at a backable price and with the value of the win so important to both teams, I think this might be the right moment to have a little dabble. That's the way I'm looking at it. There's only one team that are averaging under 2.5 goals this season, actually, in terms of their matches, and it's Manchester United, 2.45. So the average of the league is above 2.5. And for the reasons outlined, I think we'll see that here. That neither are very good at keeping clean sheets. Burnley have got 2 in 20. Luton have got 1 so far this season. So, yeah, I've made the case for it's a pick 'em really. Both teams to score or over 2.5.
Yeah, loving those over 2.5 stats per game. And then Manchester United, the only team whose matches go under 2.5 goals, which is a shock considering the amount of goals they score in Champions Leagues, of course, this season. Mark, we're going to start the calendar year with agreement with you and Adrian. So, look, make the case for both teams to score, or add anything you need to.
Adrian's already done it really for me. There's not a huge amount I can really add to that. But I think what's quite interesting is the tradition is to assume a relegation 6-pointer is going to be tight, scrappy, must not lose, and low scoring. And, you know, that's what the market is anticipating here at Turf Moor. And I'm not convinced. I think it's underrating the prospect of goals. We've seen the increase of goals in the Premier League across the board this season, whether that's due to the extra time we're seeing in matches or just the difference in sort of coaching attitudes towards football these days, which is very much front foot rather than the sort of Jose Mourinho days, or perhaps a combination of the two. But, you know, just starting on just sort of raw numbers, really, Adrian touched on it too, but neither side can be trusted defensively. Between them, they've kept just 3 clean sheets in the Premier League this season from 39 fixtures. They've conceded 78 goals in those 39 games. And if we look at the majority of the advanced metrics as well, these 2 teams make up the bottom 3, or at least 2/3 of it, in terms of XG against, shots on target conceded, shots in the box faced, big chances allowed, etc., etc. So defensively, I couldn't trust either team to come into this fixture and keep a clean sheet. But flip it round and going forward, I think there has been improvements from both sides in the attacking third. Burnley have scored in 6 of the last 9 in the Premier League, and there's been signs of life, which Adrian touched upon. I know Vincent Kompany has been very, very frustrated by the actual results recently, the FA Cup defeat by Spurs, as well as a loss against Liverpool and that game against Villa, because in patches and occasionally more than just patches, Burnley have looked very competitive and very capable of competing with the big boys. They do lack an element of ruthlessness going forward, but they're playing a Luton side who's kept just 1 clean sheet all season. So there is a real opportunity for them here to not just score, but get a result. And look, the schedule at Turf Moor has been very, very tough, but even still, 9 defeats in 10 and 3 wins in 20 overall, for me, makes them an unattractive proposition around about evens. If I had to have a play in the major sort of handicaps or 1x2, I'd be with Luton plus half a goal. I do think they have adjusted to the Premier League life pretty well. Of course, there's a lack of kind of top flight quality, but they do make life uncomfortable for you. And the bulk of their best performances have come at the Kenny, but they have already won at Everton, Sheffield United. They held Forest away, and they've been scoring goals. They scored in 15 of 19 games overall, which is a hell of a tally, as good as most teams in the division. We know there's that physicality in their approach. Their set pieces tend to be quite strong. Alfie Doughty's having a terrific campaign with his delivery. So I do expect them to cause Burnley problems here. I just don't trust them either-wise to keep a clean sheet. So BTTS was the bet that stood out here. It's landed in 14 of Luton's 19, a 74% hit rate, which is really, really strong. And I think all 7 of Luton's matches with teams in 14th and below have not just seen both teams to score bank, but also over 2.5 goals as well. So, if you did want to take that bigger price on overs, there's a good statistic to back up your argument there too. So, just to surmise, neither can be trusted defensively. I think both have shown a capability of creating chances recently, and I think this is a very winnable opportunity, and for that reason I don't expect either team to take a negative approach. There's no reason to do that, so I'm expecting goals, happy to oppose the market. I don't think this is your typical 6-pointer scrap. I think we could see an enjoyable, entertaining game.
Okay, enjoyable, entertaining Friday night football for Mark and Adrian. They think we're going to lock in both teams to score, give them both agreement, but the option of over 2.5, and if Mark was having a play on the 1x2 market, he would be siding with Luton plus with an Asian handicap start. And a win for Luton, incidentally, on Friday night would take them outside the relegation zone. We're going to go Saturday night football. We're skipping the Chelsea-Fulham game. Fulham in action tonight against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. So Newcastle versus Manchester City. And take a look at the betting currently on the Matchbook betting exchange. Newcastle as big as 5.9 here. Manchester City 161. The draw is 4.7. Both teams to score, yes, favourite here at around 1.7. The Asian handicap line sees Newcastle get a 1-goal head start at 194, and the total here is 2.5. Overs is a big favourite here at 165. So, Mark, take it away here. Newcastle, massive price here, but look, there's context to that with injuries and stuff. But what have you made of them the last few weeks? It felt like a massive win against Sunderland all of a sudden just for Eddie Howe.
Yeah, that felt like a real banana skin for Eddie Howe in Newcastle. It's been a difficult period for them in terms of results, player availability. They were starting to hear some sort of some voices behind the scenes which suggested that time was starting to run out for Eddie Howe if things weren't going to change soon. And I thought the performance against Sunderland was pretty emphatic. Actually, it was a great response. They bossed that match from the very first whistle. I expected Sunderland to come out all guns blazing and try and put them under pressure, but they didn't really get that opportunity because Newcastle just seized the initiative from the off really and showed the standards that they are capable of. And it was needed really after 3 straight defeats. And sure, you can look at Sunderland and suggest that they weren't at the races or failed to fire under the pressure of a big derby game. But, I prefer to praise Newcastle for their response. But the manner of those 3 defeats was alarming. Luton away, the first team to fail to score against Luton this season. The no-show at home to Forest was alarming, allowing sort of Chris Wood to run all over you. And then the battering at Anfield as well, when you concede 30-odd shots. And go a little bit further back, it was 5 defeats in 7 Premier League games. The win against Man United and the Fulham game that featured an early red card, really the only respites in that sample. So it does still paint quite a bleak picture, but I think getting a full week off to rest, prepare, will help Newcastle. And they have tended to be at their best at St James's Park, backed by that vocal home support. It's an evening kickoff here against Man City too, which you think will aid the atmosphere. And yeah, I thought they did look quite a big priced outsider here, even though traditionally they have a horrendous record against City. I think it's one win in 32 league games, 26 defeats in that sample. And they're playing a Man City side who just so happened to have gone off, got some sun on their backs, played in the Club World Cup at sort of half-paced, managed to pick up another trophy without stretching themselves, and players are coming back to full fitness. De Bruyne back in the squad is a huge bonus, Doku too, so we're unsure about Haaland, but yeah, the players who missed the FA Cup match with illness, we expect to be fine here. So I do expect a very strong Man City performance here, but strong enough to warrant them being 1.6 and -1 goal favourites. Yeah, I put a question mark behind that, to be honest. And I think they're possibly a time to take Man City on, which I don't do lightly. But I thought Newcastle +1 at 195 was worth a look here. City need to win this game by 2 goals or more to see our stake lost if you take that selection, which of course is very plausible. But recent history shows that it's not really a regular kind of occurrence for Man City when they travel to the Premier League's best teams. If you ignore the bottom 4 this season, City have only won twice away from home. They've also only kept 2 away clean sheets in the Premier League in 10 fixtures so far this season. So if Newcastle were to grab a goal, City require at least 3 for this bet to lose. Again, it's possible. City, we know what they're capable of. But if you go back to the start of last season, Man City have only won 4 of 14 away days against the top half. They've actually conceded a goal in 13 of those 14 away days as well against the top half. So, chances are Newcastle score here, and then City need 3 to see this bet lose. And for all their recent issues, I still do have them rated as the second strongest home side in the division based on what they've done so far this season. They have only lost 4 home games in 29 since the start of last season in the Premier League, which is a hell of a record. So I am investing a bit of faith in that home record, the schedule being a little bit kinder, the morale boost of beating Sunderland and dominating them at the Stadium of Light, and building a lot of that City record away from home against the top half Premier League teams into my thinking here. And I just think, whereas I started this match in my notes kind of having City to win and whether it's over or under something along the totals line, the more I sort of looked into it, the more I thought, actually, I do fancy giving Newcastle an opportunity here at a big price with a big start. So that's my thinking, Newcastle +1.
When you're talking there, I just went through the last few Man City Newcastle games. It's outrageous, that record. And Adrian, Mark's quoting the head-to-head records. You've finally got him on board for a bit.
I know, I love it. They're a proper bogey side, aren't they?
Yeah.
City, although Newcastle did beat City in the EFL, in the Carabao Cup, didn't they, earlier on in the season at St James's by a 1-0. It was a really strong argument, to be honest, formed by Mark. And yeah, I could get all those points. I'm kind of where he was at in terms of I don't want to oppose Manchester City, and I personally think they're coming into form. I sense it. That second half against Everton was very good, and since they've swatted, a couple of struggling to Sheffield United aside easily, the cup game was a walk in the park. I don't know. I just feel as if they're getting their groove back a little bit, and the returns of those players are going to lift them further, aren't they? So, yeah, it's just with Newcastle that the issue is what they do without the ball, and they probably will try and press at the right times and whatnot, and which can cause City problems. But at the same time, they are quite easy to slice through, aren't they? Liverpool showed that, and they're just giving away too many chances against teams that aren't even that special. So I'm thinking, well, if they've got the 4th worst expected goals against in open play, which they have in the Premier League, then how are they going to contain Manchester City? Because City will have most of the ball in the game. Pretty sure of that. I just fancy them to be able to open up a team that has struggled to stem the tide in recent games. I know it was Anfield, but what Liverpool did to them was a little bit embarrassing, really, and I think that City are capable as well. I'm going to pair it with over 1.5 goals. So City and over 1.5, because 11 of City's 12 wins this season have featured more than 1.5 goals. The exception, ironically, being the 1-0 win against Newcastle at the Etihad earlier on this season. But yeah, if they are going to win the game, I would expect it to be with multiple goals. as Mark's outlined, City don't have a sensational clean sheet record this season, and Newcastle are more than capable of getting one, aren't they? So it might be a 2-1, a 3-1, something like that. But I do fancy Manchester City here. The track record makes a difference. The fact that City pretty much score in every game makes a massive difference, because that, it means that it puts pressure on Newcastle to score multiple goals to potentially stay in it. And they have, of course, City scored in 30 consecutive Premier League games against Newcastle. No team has ever had a longer scoring streak against an opponent than City do against Newcastle. So yeah, I could absolutely get on board with Mark's selection there, but yeah, I don't want to go against City. So really, it's just a City win, but you're ruling out the 1-0 at 1.87.
First tough decision of the season, or of the calendar year, guys. Here, it's basically between the form and the numbers versus perhaps that home record with Newcastle. I'm going to side with Mark and Newcastle plus 1 goal, 194 currently on the Asian handicap. The Asian handicap's incidentally a fun way to play just all Premier League games in general on the Matchbook betting exchange. But yeah, we're going to lock in that as the podcast selection. But take your pick between Mark and Adrian. We're going to move to a third game. We're going to cover this Sunday 2:00, Everton versus Aston Villa. Villa's away record will be taking a tough test here at Goodison. Everton 294, Villa 252. The draw is 3.7. Both teams to score, yes, is favoured at around 1.6 currently. The Asian handicap line is the draw no bet market, with Villa favoured at 185, and the goal line here is 2.5. The over there is 175. So look, Adrian, I said Villa's away record's going to take a tough test at Goodison. Again, I'm going amazing this season.
It wasn't very good last season either.
Well, that's true, actually.
Yeah, I think it's been a while
since beyond. Yeah,
it's been a while since Everton have had that sort of formidable home record, and they got a rotten record against Villa. Villa are unbeaten in 9 against Everton. So yeah, and they battered them. I think, if memory serves me well, earlier on in the season at Villa Park. I think they swatted the Toffees aside quite easily. I'm going to avoid the match result here because I find it tricky. I think obviously Villa are the form team, and they've proven they can score multiple goals home and away and win games anywhere, but they're not yet fully trustworthy, I don't think, home and away. And Everton are coming into this off 3 defeats in a row. I think there's going to be a bit of fire in their bellies. I really do. I think that their backs are to the wall, and I think that Sean Dyche is going to get them right up for this. Do I trust them enough to win the game and back them to win the game? No. But I'm just thinking about the game state here. I'm thinking about Everton. They want a win. They want a performance. They want to really restore morale. And I actually think they've got the tools to cause Villa problems, because Villa will have that high line, we know. They'll squeeze up and they'll press. The thing about Everton is they don't mind turning you, do they? They will flip those balls over the top for Calvert-Lewin, who's been given a reprieve, hasn't he? Because that red card has been rescinded. And I think that could be a really big issue here, because he's quick. He's really quick, Calvert-Lewin. One of the quickest strikers in the division statistically. And they'll go long and they'll flip. They'll go in beyond that high line, and I think they will cause Villa problems. At the other end of the pitch, Villa will cause Everton issues. They've got loads of players in good form. They've scored at least twice. I think they have scored 2 goals rather in all of their last 4 away games. Aston Villa, Watkins on fire. You've got good delivery coming in from Bailey if he's not scoring as well. So yeah, I think that Villa just attack games at the moment, home or away. Everton need it, and they have. I think it's a stylistic and okay matchup for them. So yeah, I can see both teams registering, and possibly we see a third goal, and or it could be that Villa run away with it. That wouldn't surprise me either. So yeah, I'm going to go with over 2.5 goals here. That is my selection. I think, for the reasons outlined, it won't be quiet. I think it'll be quite a lively game.
Okay, and Mark, you're in agreement here on the goals angle overall. Currently 175 over 2.5.
Yeah, it's. I found this quite a tricky game to prep for. I did it on Tuesday, my prep, and I'm quite happy to sort of reveal that I was Aston Villa. Draw no bet was my angle on Tuesday, and then obviously the news of Calvert-Lewin's red card being rescinded has kind of taken me back a little bit, and tried to find an alternative option, which was over 2.5 goals, and that Villa +0 offering was 180. It's now 185, so just a very small market move based on that team news. But my issue with Everton coming into this game is just the team news, really. I'm not sure on the availability of Dwight McNeil or Doucouré, who I think are two big players, two big kind of goal contributors in terms of creating or scoring so far this season. And Ghana Gay is obviously away on international duty with AFCON. So there's kind of 2 or 3 key players there who I'd want to be available, with DCL potentially missing as well. That was definitely the kind of hammer blow really for me with being with Everton. But with him available, it does kind of change the picture a little bit. But they have lost their last 3. But against City and Spurs, I thought they were, especially against Spurs, they deserved more from that game. But against City, I thought the first half they were competitive. But to lose so emphatically at Wolves was more concerning. And I think Sean Dyche has been rightfully kind of criticised for changing formation that day, trying to mirror Wolves. It didn't work. It went badly wrong. It was the first time they conceded 3 goals to a team outside of the top 7 for the first time since April. First time they'd failed to have a shot on target in a league game since October 2022 as well. And then the FA Cup tie, which just bored everyone silly on that Thursday night against Palace. So they do need a reaction. I think we'll get Everton straight back to a flat back 4 here. They have the raw materials to give it a good game, as Adrian's already outlined. But yeah, I definitely want at least one of McNeil or Doucouré available. Arguably McNeil, actually, because he's got that ability to stretch the game and hound Villa from defensive in the defensive press. But from Aston Villa's perspective, we know they're very capable. We know they're very good. But I've just been a little bit alarmed as well by their recent efforts against Burnley and Sheffield United, conceding 3 goals in those games, and kind of fortunate to pick up 4 points from those matches, considering how they played out. And they probably could and should have taken more out of the Man United game at Old Trafford as well, considering the position they were in, and they sort of lost control of that in the second half. But then I kind of thought, well, we are judging a side who are second in the Premier League, who have got the second highest points tally in 2023 as well, and have pretty much close to their A team available here too. So I found it quite tricky to sort of have a really strong view on either team. So the goals option was the more appealing. Villa defensively can be got at, just 4 clean sheets in 20 this season, which is not a tally you associate with the side second in the league, yet they have notched an 18 of 20 themselves. Adrian's already said, they're more than capable of scoring at least twice, which they've done so quite regularly too. And for Everton, they've scored themselves in 9 of the last 11. So BTTS was just a little bit too short. So just to look at over 2.5 goals there at 175, you don't need to be supporting either team here. Just cheer on the goals. We think both sides are capable of contributing, and 7 of Villa's 10 away games have gone over already. So it just kind of takes out the stress of having to be with either team and just try and hopefully cheer on an enjoyable game.
Okay, yeah, over 2.5 goals agreement amongst the guys here. So we'll lock that in. 175, the bet for Everton versus Aston Villa. That's Sunday, 2:00 on Sky Sports. And then Sunday, 4:30, we've got Manchester United versus Tottenham. United favourites here, 2.28 at Old Trafford. Spurs are 3.1. The draw is 4.1. Both teams to score. Yes, wait to see this price. Currently 145 on Matchbook Betting Exchange. The Asian handicap line sees Spurs get a quarter goal head start at 194. And the goal line as high as 3.5, 174 if you're back in the under. So, Mark, we'll stick with you on this one. I'm surprised ultimately with your selection here. So, because, Tottenham, I think despite the injuries, have come into a bit of form and they're getting a lot of their players back. So, make the case perhaps why you think United, there's still a bit of juice in that Manchester United price.
Well, look, this is a difficult game to, I think, decipher from a punting perspective. I've kind of had to wrestle with my own sort of intuition a few times. Looking at this game, I've decided to kind of invest faith in Man United here, largely because of the unavailability of Tottenham's squad. I think they're in a difficult position right now, and I think United, whilst they are very, very difficult to trust, very difficult to second guess, I'm going to give them a chance here. But rather than back them at 2.26, you can bolster that price to 3.7 by including both teams to score, which makes it a much more palatable offering for me if I'm going to be with Man United. I think first things first, on that BTTS opportunity, Spurs have scored in each of their last 32 Premier League games. They've also scored at least twice in 15 of 20 Premier League matches under Postecoglou, which is an absolutely exceptional return, considering they lost their best striker in history, basically, in the summer. He's completely overhauled the style and system and the squad, and they've got that kind of output, which is absolutely outrageous, really. But for this match, they are without Son, their top goal scorer. He's also second in the assist category. No Maddison, of course, who's second in the assist category still. And of course, there's plenty more. No Basuma, no Sarr, no Perisic, Romero, Ben Davies, Lo Celso, and others as well, which I don't need to mention. But that's at least 6 first-team starters unavailable, and quite a few of them very influential players too. So I make it about 23 Premier League goals and 15 assists worth of talent this season, which are unavailable. They do get Mickey van der Ven back, so defensively there'll be about 3 of their first choice back 4 playing. It's just central midfield and in forward areas where there are big absentees, and I still back them to score because I think that's the way in which they do play, in which they'll try and attack United regardless. But it's quite hard to make a case for Man United, obviously, bar those absentees. But they were 245 against a full strength Aston Villa side. So to be sort of 2.25ish against a depleted Spurs feels fair enough, really. Now United have lost 9 times already this season, but even if you look at their wins in the Premier League, you could probably put asterisks beside most of them. But I think that rousing comeback against Villa, the Chelsea game, which they did win, which was a little bit basketball at times, Liverpool away, and for all the positives surrounding Spurs in forward areas, they have still shipped 2 goals or more in 6 of 10 away games, and all of their away wins have been recorded against bottom half teams. So I'm just kind of looking at what United have done recently in the bigger matches, sort of raising themselves to put in a bit of a performance. If they can do that again, I think they can cause Tottenham problems. Bournemouth were arguably the better team against Tottenham. Everton were arguably the better team against Tottenham. Brighton dominated them at the Amex. So if United can find something close to resembling their best, I think they can put off a result here, considering the players Spurs are missing. So obviously it's difficult to be confident in backing them, and that's why I added the BTTS element to get a bigger price, so you're not kind of as reliant on them to do the business at shortish prices. So yeah, but look, it's not a confident play whatsoever.
Okay, yeah, that's United. Both teams to score 3.7. And Adrian, you're ultimately decided on Manchester United. On Spurs, were you not tempted, because given that despite all the injuries and Postecoglou has had to face the season, they do always seem to play the same way, and they will create chances. But also Timo Werner, I do want to mention him because it looks like he will be in that squad for Sunday, and he could possibly start, just given the injuries and Son missing, as Mark alluded to there.
Yeah, it's a good shout. Yeah, he could start, couldn't he? Yeah, look, it's a decent pickup. They needed a centre forward. Still not spent the money they got for Kane, really, have they? So, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's got a very checkered record in the Premier League, hasn't he, Werner? But he's a player of pedigree that's capable of scoring against anybody. So, yeah, no, I'm not discounting Tottenham here. I just do feel that those injuries are pretty big. Sarr and Basuma is their midfield, not there. Romero and is the one that Van der Ven wants to play alongside. Son's massive for them. There are other players injured too. Still no Maddison. And just look at it's more their away record, Spurs, in terms of keeping other teams at bay. It's not good. 3-3 at City, 2-2 at Arsenal, 4-2 at Brighton. Numerous times they're conceding multiple goals in the toughest games, and they're relying on scoring loads and loads of goals themselves, aren't they, to get anything out of matches. And I just sense that Manchester United, even though they're not great, they are capable every now and again of digging in. We saw it at Anfield, didn't we? And Erik ten Hag has got that. Every time you think he's on the brink of going or whatnot, they find a result. They find a way. And I do think they've got a lot of pace in forward areas, Manchester United. And pace is what hurts this Tottenham team. No doubt about it. I can envisage Garnacho running in beyond this crazy high line of Postecoglou's. I can see Rasmus Højlund, if they persist with him, if they provide the right service, I can see him racing clear and having chances to score. You've got Rashford as well. There's a potential. So I think that they've got, Bruno, no player has created more chances, believe it or not, than Bruno Fernandes in the Premier League this season. So they've got someone to supply the ammunition. I think they're just going to flick balls through the gaps and chase after it for the Manchester United strikers, and that could be very effective. So yeah, I just lean towards them to win the game. I totally get why both teams to score shout would make sense because of Tottenham's amazing goal streak. 32 games in a row is amazing. But yeah, I guess I'm just playing it safe and just going for a team to win the match. And based on what I've said, it is Manchester United that I fancy.
Okay, rare time. It's rare that in a big game that both guys are going with Manchester United here, but we'll lock in the bigger price to bring in the both teams to score 3.7. I tried my best, Spurs fan, to make the case.
Yeah, on that, there's a couple of stats I forgot to mention there, and it just makes you wonder how sustainable the Spurs success is, I guess. I mean, if you can call it success. They have conceded 29 Premier League goals, but their XG against is 35.6. That's a big old differential. I think it's 6.6 in terms of actual goals conceded and what the stats say they should have conceded. So it's been a big reliance on Vicario and poor finishing at one end, and at the other end as well. They're they're overperforming their XG massively. 6.5 extra goals they've scored compared to their expected goals. So at both ends of the pitch, they should be doing worse than they are. So that, even though I think the XG metric is a little bit flawed at times, it is generally a decent guide, and Spurs are exceeding it at both ends of the pitch, and that isn't sustainable over a long period of time. So I would expect that to level out sooner or later.
Well, one thing's for sure, they are definitely probably the most entertaining team to watch in the Premier League, and it'll be fascinating, even some of those metrics you touched on, Adrian, how that plays out over the next 6 months to see where they end up come the end of the season. So we've locked in United and both teams to score. A full recap of all the bets put up by Mark and Adrian will be available on Matchbook Insights from Thursday morning, so do check that out. Just Google Matchbook Insights or check out insights.matchbook.com. We've got EFL section now, and Adrian, look, pre-Christmas, Ipswich were the form team, I guess, in the Championship. Not that the wheels have come off completely, but there's just been inconsistency, draws, a defeat or two in there as well. But you backed them to come back fighting here against Sunderland at over.
Yeah, it's kind of price based. I think you got the second place side in the division with a phenomenal home record at Portman Road, where they averaged 2.54 goals scored per game. Ipswich. You've got them at odds against at home to a team that haven't really produced a great deal away from home this season in Mick Beale's Sunderland. So yeah, I'm sort of backing the Tractor Boys to bounce back here. They are winless in 5. They've had their injury issues. George Hurst is a big miss up top for them, but I think they've got enough about them. They've got a big enough squad to cope with it, and some of those results weren't that bad. They drew with Leicester. They drew. Obviously, they got battered by Leeds, but there was some okay results in there for Ipswich Town over Christmas. So I wouldn't rule them out of the promotion race. They've still got a lot of positives. Score lots of goals. Sunderland don't score very many goals away from home. Very low scoring, just 14 on their travels this season. They've only got 16 points from 13 away games, which for a team that has promotion aspirations is not great. They've blanked in a number of games against top half opposition. And I looked at their record against the best teams in the division on the road, Sunderland, and it's not great. They've played 4 of the top half sides away, and they've had 3 blanks in those games and scored 1 goal in total. So yeah, they don't have a record this season of going, away in this type of fixture and delivering a massive amount of goal threat. And and Ipswich have plenty. So I'm going to back them at odds against because I think had they had a better Christmas, they'd probably be odds on for the game.
Okay, yeah, interesting angle on Ipswich. And the second one is the League One title race / promotion race is hotting up at the top, and one of those teams involved, Adrian, is Derby. So you feel it's a good chance to get them on side still at 1.9 with a goals play as well.
I looked at this. I think it's a Monday night game, so you might have to wait a while for this. It'll be in isolation. It's a bit of a derby up in that part of the world. It's not too far from where I am. So Burton Albion will be very, very eager to put up a fight there. But no, look, I think Derby are flying at the moment. They are the form team. They're top of the 10-game form table in League One, which is no mean feat when you think Bolton and Portsmouth and Peterborough have been flying. But no one's got more points than Derby across the last 10. They're joint top of the 12-game form table as well. When you look at that table with the 12 games, Burton are second lowest. You know, they've really struggled. Only 9 points across their last 12. So you've got to make Derby the overwhelming favourites here. But I think it will be a tight game. I really do. Only 3 of 26 Burton Albion matches have gone over 3.5 this season. So even though they've struggled, they've been involved. They've been competitive. They've not been blown away. They've not been battered too often. Quite well organised. But yeah. So I think under 3.5 feels right, especially with it being a bit of a derby game as well. Burton have failed to score in 12 of 26 games, which is poor. Really light up front at the moment. Their away games average only 2.15 as well, Burton. So I don't think this is going to be a thriller. It might be a grind for Derby County, but Derby County are the better team. They've got, they've got a settled side now. They're, some of their forwards are coming into good form, and I think they'll get the job done. But Paul Warne isn't the type of coach that once he gets the lead, he's like, let's go and get 3, 4, 5, 6 too often. He's quite pragmatic. So I see this being a 1-0 or a 2-0, maybe 3-0 at best. You also, of course, get the 2-1 onside as well here. So lots of results. And I think for 1.9, that's decent value.
Yeah, Derby under 3.5 goals, 1.9, and Ipswich 2.14. The two selections in our EFL section, first European section of the calendar year. The Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast, of course, mirrors itself off the European winter break, Mark O'Haire, and you feel these next 5, 6, 7 games for Bayern Munich, considering they're 4 points behind Leverkusen, albeit with a game in hand, are crucial. So I'm guessing you're expecting them to come out firing from minute 1 there this weekend.
I am, yeah. Leverkusen have some key absentees through injuries and AFCON as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they juggle January and the early stages of February in this title race. They've been absolutely exceptional so far this season. But yeah, the Bundesliga is back on Friday night with Bayern playing Hoffenheim. Happy to support Bayern to win this game alongside both teams scoring, which comes in at 2.2. A full point increase on Bayern just to win the game at 1.17. Despite a few hiccups along the way, Bayern have still won 12 of their 15 league games. They are 6-1-0 in Munich, only dropping points against Leverkusen so far this season. They scored 30 goals in those 7 home league fixtures, and they are facing a Hoffenheim side with just 1 clean sheet to their name, and they have conceded multiple goals in 10 of 16 fixtures and lost 5 of 6 against the top 8. So, I probably don't need to justify Bayern Munich winning this match. So I think the more focus here should be on the BTTS element, which is effectively Hoffenheim to score, which is something they've done in every Bundesliga game this season. But more impressively, they've performed really well in the attacking elements against the best teams in the division so far. They scored twice against Leverkusen. They scored 3 goals against Stuttgart. They also scored away at Leipzig as well. So I don't think there's any reason why they can't score against Bayern on Friday night. A Bayern side who are missing their best defender, Kim, who is away at the Asian Cup with Korea. They're also missing Mazraoui, who's at AFCON with Morocco. He's probably not a first-choice player anyway. But even still, it does mean Bayern will start with the defence of Konrad Laimer at right back, Upamecano and De Ligt at centre-half, and Alphonso Davies at left-back, which, of course, on paper isn't a bad back four at all. But Thomas Tuchel still hasn't got that key defensive midfielder he wants, and he's been demanding since he joined. So I do think there are vulnerabilities and fragility in this Bayern side, especially so without Kim. And I think the beauty about Hoffenheim is there's a lovely balance between kind of a mixture of pace and physicality, real width about them, set piece threat too. They're looking probably going to start here with Weghorst and Kramaric up front, sort of 2 probably Premier League flops, many people would describe them as. But they've been really good together, actually, and they do a lot of different things. And I just think Bayern might struggle to contain this team, whether it's in counterattacks, set pieces, or in open play. I think Hoffenheim are more than capable of scoring in this fixture, but ultimately they'll probably concede 3 or 4 themselves. So 2.2 on the Bayern win and both teams to score.
Okay, Bayern and both teams to score 2.2. Second selection from La Liga, Betis against Granada, Mark.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at some of the Spanish press, they've been talking about Betis missing 3 players on international duty, but really only one of them is a first team regular, Chadi Riyad, who plays at centre half, so he'll be missing. But even without him, I think Betis have got more than enough quality to beat Granada on Sunday or Saturday. I'm not sure when it is, at the weekend anyway. Betis have been the draw kings in Spain so far this season, 10 draws in 18. But they do get Isco back from a ban here, which is a big plus because he has been pretty close to his best since he joined Betis in the summer. You know, his career was on a downward spiral at Real Madrid, but he's been really, really good in open play. And I think with him in the side, they've got more than enough ability to open up a Granada side who are struggling. So obviously the home win is a little bit too short to support. It's around 1.6-ish. But if you include under 4.5 goals, it boosts it right up to 1.98, which is a really quite appealing price to cheer on here. Just 2 of Betis's games overall have escalated into a shootout going over 4.5 goals, both of which were away from home, and 7 of their 9 home games went under 2.5, let alone under 4.5. They're not involved regularly in high scoring fixtures, but they do tend to do the business in this spot. They've won 5, drawn 1, and lost 0 when hosting teams outside of the top 8 this season. I've got them ranked 5th in terms of home expected points, 5th in terms of home expected goals process, just highlighting how strong they can be in Seville. And they're hosting a Granada side who have taken just 1 point away from home all season. So 8 defeats from 9 away from home. And that includes 6 games against teams outside of the top 8. So even when they've been playing sort of the lesser lights, they are not getting results. Away from home, I've got them second bottom expected points, second bottom on XG process. They can be easily opposed here. So I think getting Betis at close to evens to win a relatively low scoring game, obviously you've got 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1 or 3-1 on your side, really does appeal.
Okay, 198 Betis and under 4.5 goals. That game, incidentally, Saturday, 8 o'clock UK and Ireland time. We'll go to our best long shot section, which is probably the success story of the season. In fairness, 10 wins, 28 defeats doesn't look the best on paper, but when you consider the prices and you put £20 on each of those selections, you will be up almost £500 on the Matchbook betting exchange if you include a 2% commission. Not bad, Mark O'Haire, and that's not including any double ups that we've had this season. So Adrian, I'm happy to trust you given the profit and loss. And then I see you're going against Leicester, not only to lose, but not to score. And I'm like, geez, I might need to hear this case before getting on board.
Yeah, it's I get that. I do. This is a derby in this part of the world. And I think, it could be a little bit of a level. If you cast your mind back to the opening day of the season, Coventry caused Leicester City a lot of problems in a narrow defeat at the King Power. If they'd have taken their chances, they might have won the game, Coventry. So I don't think there's that much of a gulf. Not the same gulf as there is between Leicester and most teams in the Championship. I think this will be a little bit more competitive. You're right about Leicester. They almost always score. Only one away game where they've blanked this season. But look, this is Coventry, and Coventry are the form team in the Championship. They've been climbing up the league at a pretty rapid rate, winning lots of games, lots and lots of clean sheets along the way as well for the Sky Blues. And this might be a good time to play Leicester. There's no Ndidi. He's out for 3 months. I think Iheanacho's missing. Daka's definitely out. Vardy's been away. So, there's a reliance on Tom Cannon up front, who's done well, and the wingers really, as well as Dewsbury Hall, to come up with the goals. The reason this is less anti-Leicester, it's more pro-Cov. I think that Coventry's defensive record is worthy of respect. They've kept 7 clean sheets in 13 home matches in the Championship this season. That's phenomenal. They've won 7 games already this season, 2-0, which is effectively what we're backing here. It's a 27% hit rate. And, Leicester have only had 3 clean sheets on the road. So I think there's every chance that Coventry can get a goal. And as the clean sheet record suggests, they are very well organised and pretty hard to break down. So, yeah, clearly it's a long shot for a reason. Leicester are phenomenal. But if anyone can beat them, I think at the moment it might be Coventry. And Coventry at home are a tough nut to crack. So, yeah, I'm just sort of backing a narrow home win here, which, might sound surprising, but I can see it happening.
Okay, potentially just see that 1-0 game, early kickoff as well, which is always good for a shock. I think they're around 3.95, 4.0 to win the game overall if you do want to take that selection, but pairing it with both teams to score no, as Adrian alluded to, 7.6 currently on the Matchbook betting exchange. Mark, this is a very fascinating long shot. You've had the biggest long shot multiplied by 7, 8 that we've ever had, I'd say, on the best long shot. Well, it definitely is the biggest by far. So why were you keen to get this selection in the best long shots and give people a bit of an understanding of your strategy back to lay over the next few weeks in the AFCON?
Yeah, so AFCON starts on Saturday. I used to be obsessed with international competitions, whether it was the Asian Cup or AFCON or Copa America. Still am, pretty much. But yeah, it starts on Saturday, so I'll be looking forward to it. But yeah, it's a very, very competitive tournament. If you look towards the top end of the market, there'll be around 9 or 10 teams trading at sort of 14-1 or shorter. But it is a competition which is prone to upsets and surprises. So I'm always on the lookout for whether it's a back to lay opportunity or just a big priced outsider to sort of cheer on throughout the competition. And Burkina Faso were the sides to kind of pique my interest coming into this competition. Obviously quite an unfashionable side compared to the teams at the top end of the market, but I think they're underrated, and I think they're more than capable of springing a surprise or two. So, they're not a no-hoper. This is a semi-finalist from the last AFCON. They lost to the eventual winners, Senegal, in the semi-finals. They're also runners-up in 2013, third in 2017. So they have got pedigree as a nation for getting through the first hurdle and competing in the knockout stages. And if you look at the squad, there's quite a nice kind of smattering of talent across the team. It's not just condensed in one area of the field, which has been the case for some of the other big hitters. You've got Tapsoba at centre half. He'll be one of the best defenders in the competition. You've got Bournemouth's Ouattara, who's very adaptable, versatile. Bertrand Traore, who hasn't really getting a look in at Aston Villa, but is a real threat in his continent in terms of whether he's playing from out wide or up top. He really sort of enjoys the pressure of leading his nation. He's always really influential in African football, and they've got quite a savvy, experienced head coach in Hubert Veloud, who's a Frenchman who's got great experience of coaching on the continent too. So they're in good form, and they're in a manageable group where you've got Algeria, Mauritania, and Angola. So Algeria are the obvious danger here, but this tournament is taking place in Ivory Coast, and Algeria don't tend to travel to sub-Saharan Africa very strongly. They tend to perform well in Northern Africa, but the continental climate and conditions below the Sahara, they just tend to struggle in. It's a peculiar kind of element. It's not just restricted to Algeria too. Tunisia finds something similar too. And this, as I said, this tournament's taking place in Ivory Coast, and Burkina Faso is a neighbouring country to Ivory Coast, so there shouldn't be any issues in terms of them adapting to the challenges. They also should be getting a decent amount of sport just crossing the border too. And if you look at the schedule, they're playing Mauritania first, 2 other group outsiders, which should help if they can get a win to start their campaign. And if you do top the pool, you're basically playing a third place team in the last 16, which is a big help. And if you are runners up, you face the winner from Group E, which is looking as likely to be Tunisia or Mali. Now, I do like Mali, but not so much Tunisia. So they could have had a much more difficult route to potentially the quarterfinals or better. So Burkina Faso were the side to stand out, being written off really, and they're around about 50-1 on the sports books at the minute. So you've promised me that Matchbook will open the outright market at some point before the start of the competition. If we can get them at least 51.0 or bigger, that would be a real feat. I wouldn't back them below 40-1, but if you back them at 50s or bigger, I think it's a nice price to cheer on in this competition, and we can sort of reevaluate it after the knockout stage and see if there's an opportunity to get out of that position or continue cheering it on to hopefully final success. But yeah, Burkina Faso.
Yep, keep an eye on the Matchbook betting exchange. We will be in and around 51.0 and one team, a nice team to cheer on throughout the tournament. So well worth keeping an eye on that. Best bets time. Adrian Clarke, best bet. You took your time picking this one, so take it away with your thought process here.
Yeah, so I was just looking around the EFL because obviously there's a lack of Premier League games this weekend, and there's some tricky fixtures that we've already discussed. So I had to look into the EFL, and yeah, one game stood out. Two real form teams Tranmere and MK Dons. I know MK Dons got beat 3-0 at Doncaster, which was a real shock last time out, but they've been on a brilliant winning run previously. Mike Williamson, I don't know if you remember him, the former Newcastle defender, centre half. He's the gaffer there at MK, and he's won, I think, 7 of 11 matches in charge already. Got them playing some great football. So MK Dons are a lovely team to watch at the minute. They've got tons of goal threats at the top end of the pitch, and yeah, they tend to score plenty of goals. They're playing a Tranmere team that's on the march under Nigel Atkins. They were kind of around the relegation zone, but now they're almost pushing for the playoffs. You know, around up to mid-table, but momentum's with them, and their home form's superb. So I think this is going to be a great game. Tranmere will be full of beans. They're going to go at MK Dons, and I think MK Dons are going to play some nice football, and they're going to attack themselves. I'm looking at over 2.5 goals here, because 11 of Tranmere's 13 home games this season have gone over 2.5. And for MK Dons on the road, pre-Williamson and since he came in, they've featured quite a lot of goals. 67% of over 2.5 bets have landed in MK Dons away games. So yeah, it's one of those matches where they'll both be looking for the wins to carry on the momentum. The managers have got a positive mindset, and if there are weaknesses, it's maybe at the back for both teams. Clean sheets aren't exactly regular. They've got a combined number of clean sheets of 10 from 51 matches. So between them, they're not really accustomed to keeping out the opposition. So yeah, I can see both teams scoring, and we just need one more goal for this pick to land. So yeah, I think this would be a good game in League Two.
Okay, over 2.5 goals, around 1.8 for Adrian's best bet. And Mark, take it away with the final selection of the podcast. Wrexham to score over 1.5 goals at around 1.8.
Yeah, I think this is a really great value option to take in League Two, considering this has a win rate of, well, it's won in every single Wrexham home game in League Two since promotion, which is a remarkable record. They've played 13 games at the Racecourse Ground since promotion. They scored 41 goals at an average of 3.15 per game, and they scored at least twice in all 13 of those fixtures. They scored 4 goals against a very well drilled, defensively sound Barrow side here recently at home. They scored 3 against high flying Crewe. They scored 3 against MK Dons here as well. 3 teams all inside the top 8. Wimbledon are inside the top 8 as well, and they can be pretty obdurate opposition, pretty defensively sound too. But if Wrexham can do that to Barrow, absolutely no reason why they can't do it to Wimbledon either. And it's a Wimbledon side who will have to, or are having to, remodel themselves a little bit recently, because their 2 forwards, including the star Ali Al-Hamadi, are away on international duty. Omar Bugle as well. Big blows for the Wombles. Shouldn't in theory affect their defence, but the disruption of that side could unsettle them a little bit. And if you look at their recent performances, they were held at second bottom Forest Green 1-1 last weekend, and they conceded 3 in a 5-3 win against Colchester previously. So they gave up 30 shots across those 2 games. And if we extend that run to the last 4 games, Wimbledon have actually conceded 61 shots against Sutton, Colchester, Forest Green and Crawley. 3 of those 4 teams make up the bottom 3 in League Two. They've conceded 43 shots in the box, 21 on target attempts, and an XG of 6.19 in those 4 fixtures, which is not ideal when you're facing arguably the strongest attacking side in the division, especially away from home. So, you know, if Wrexham can score at least twice in all 13 of the home league games so far, and Wimbledon come with those kind of performances in terms of being open and available to sort of attack, then, you know, 4 to 5 on Wrexham scoring at least twice looks like great value.
Okay, 1.8 as Mark alluded to there. My thanks to Mark and Adrian. We are back. It's going to be non-stop football for the next 3 or 4 months, but very much looking forward to bringing you all that. Do check out Matchbook Insights, and if you are listening or watching on YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe completely for free to the YouTube channel. If you're having a bet in the Matchbook Betting Exchange, please enjoy it, but do so responsibly. Other than that, we will chat to you next week. Bye-bye.